Hi, hello, how are you? Craig Chapman here, and welcome to Brutally Roll Your Own Backend, a short video series on writing your own low-cost backend for a Delphi application. This is part 5, and we're going to continue where we left off in part 4 as we were building our CRUD table class in PHP. So let's get started. Okay, so I have opened crudtable.php, the very same file we were working with last time. I made one or two changes, just added some comments and made a few changes to the syntax just to make things look a little bit cleaner, but it's exactly the same code as we were using before. Now, the next method we're going to add, since we have create and read, is update. So I'm going to take the create method and make a copy of it, because the update method is going to be very similar to what we did for create. So let's take a copy of that and we'll paste it in at the bottom of our class here. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is make a couple of changes so that this is the update method. CRUD update operation. And this updates one or more entries. So let's do a quick review of where we were. We're getting our global connection. We're building an array for the results. I'm going to change the name of this array from inserted to updated. Then we're going to get our JSON data from the client, and we start looping through all of that data. I'm going to make some changes here in a moment, but ultimately we build up a SQL statement that we're then going to prepare, bind our values into, execute, and we want to collect the results and display them back to the client. Okay, so let's first look at the update statement that we want to build. If I go ahead and open up a putty session, and I'm going to say admin user, and we're going to log into MySQL, and we're going to use the notifier database, and then we're going to select TBL, actually select star from TBL regions. We were working on the regions endpoint last time. So let's first build a statement to update a record in this table, and I think we should go for North Austin first. So I'm going to say update TBL regions set, and then we're going to set the str name field, and let's just put some junk value in there. Blogs where int pkid is equal to 1. And then if I select the data back, you can see that we've updated this record to read blogs. Very quickly, just going to go and put that back to North Austin. Okay, so this is the update statement that we need to build. So I'm going to take a copy of that, and I'm going to bring it here. It's going to replace our insert into statement. So we'll start by saying SQL is equal to update. Then we want the table name, which is this table. And then we don't need field str and param str. Let's have set str. And then we need a where clause. And we're going to have our key field, which I'm just going to say, let's see. We need to get the key field in from, it's going to be this key field. However, we're going to put a colon before it because this is going to be a variable. Actually, no, we're not. This key field is equal to, and then we'll have the colon and this key field. Okay, so we're basically saying this here, colon and the key field name, which is int pkid, is going to be the parameter that we set for our key field in the where clause after setting the various fields that we send up from the client. So that's our SQL statement. As you can see, we don't need field str and param str. We're now going to be building set str. So let's take setstra and we'll put this in here. And actually last time I think we were using the period equals. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the key to the set string. And this is going to be the field name. So key is equal to key, like that. So what should happen for each field that we pass up to the endpoint, we're going to say set this field name, which is the key in the entry, to this parameter, which is a parameterized version of the field name. And then when we bind the values in to these parameters, we'll have the correct set string. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing again right here. Got a lot of spaces there, let's get rid of them. So we're going to do the same thing right here, but the difference here will be we have a comma separating each of the values, because you'll remember that first was our control variable saying whether or not this is the first entry. Now obviously these two field names are no longer needed. We need setstra for our string. Okay, so let's just start from the top here. So we've got a connection and we've got an array to collect the updated records. We're parsing the JSON that's sent to us, looping through each of the entries in that data, building up the set string, and then building the SQL statement. Now, there is one catch here. We don't want to have, in our setstra, we don't want to have the key field in there. So what we're going to do in here is we're going to say, let's see, yes, so we'll say if key is not equal to this key field. So we're saying as long as we're not working on the key field, we can add it to this string. And I need to tab this all in. So we'll now only update fields which are not the key field. Now what we also need to do is within the for loop, if we come across an entry which doesn't have a key field, then we won't have a value for our where clause. So we need to know for certain that we have a key field. So we'll put in another if statement up here and we'll say if array key exists, and it's going to be this key field within the entry. So only if the key exists within the entry record do we do this. And that's going to be building the string, building the SQL, preparing, binding, and executing. All of that happens only if the key field exists. Take out this insert line because we're not updating the inserted array anymore. Okay, so then we're going to go through and bind each of the parameters into our string. And what I'm going to do here, I actually want to capture the value of the key field because we're going to use that value for our updated array if the statement successfully executes. So we'll go if key is equal to this key field. So if we're looking at the key field as we bind the parameters, bear in mind it's okay to bind the key field because we're binding it into this parameter here. But we need to capture the value. So I'm going to say the ID of the record that we're updating will be set equal to the value that we bind in. Okay, so then we execute the statement and we're going to do updated. So this is our array of updated records, and add in the ID to that array. Once that's done, we do another select, and we're going to select all of those rows that were updated, and we're going to return those back to our client. Okay, I think that method should work. So, moment of truth, let's go ahead and test it. I'm going to open up our REST debugger and notifier.chatworld.com, the regions endpoint. Go ahead and run that method and we can see if it works. Did it work? It didn't work. Let's try again. Notifier. Okay, so we're getting data back. So let's go ahead and change this method to put so we can test our update method, and select application JSON because we're going to send some data up. And I'm going to take a copy of this first entry from the get results and I'm going to paste it in here, and we're going to change the name of this location to Jones. Okay, so let's go ahead and send the request, and it's actually sent back 1 Jones, so that would suggest that our method has worked. So how can we test this? Well, let's open up our putty session again and simply select star from table regions, and we can see that Jones has been updated. Let's go ahead and set that back to North Austin. Send request, and if we run a get request, let's try updating multiple records at once. So I'll take a copy of everything here, and we'll change back to the put method and replace all of that. Let's change record 1 from North Austin to 1, South Austin to 2, East Austin to 3, and West Austin to 4. So I go ahead and send the request, and we get 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, we'll just verify that in putty. And there we go. So we can see that all of those methods are being updated. Now let's take a look real quick at what happens if we get something wrong. So I'm going to start by restoring, oops, typing in the wrong place. I'm going to start by restoring these values to North Austin, South Austin, East Austin, but then for the West Austin, I'm going to deliberately make a mistake and say the key is 5, which is a record which doesn't exist. So if I send the request, 1, 2, 3, we only get 3 records back, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to see only those records that get updated. So let's go ahead and let's make another little mistake. Let's go ahead and try and change a record without a key. As you saw, we put a condition around that case in the code. So send request, and we get 1, 2, and 3 have been updated again, but no 4. So okay, let's go ahead and set all of our data back to its original values. If I change this key to 4 and send request. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Okay, so we now have the update method working. Let's get started on the delete method. So our delete method is going to be quite different from the other methods that we've built. Instead of passing back all of the records that have been affected, we just want to pass back the keys which were deleted. Now, rather than verify each of the keys were actually deleted, I'm just going to pass back the keys that were passed in, because if those records were in the database, they will have been deleted. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start by copying the update method again. Most of this is going to be stripped out, but I just want to copy this for the sake of the function header and a few other bits. So we're going to go up here and we're going to say the CRUD delete operation, and this deletes one or more entries from the specified table, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to go ahead and say get a connection. Oh, I should change the method name. So we're going to get a connection to the database, and execute the get so that we get some records. Then we're going to change this method to delete, and JSON, it's not letting me put a body in. That's a, okay, so this is a limitation of the HTTP protocol that we can't put our data in the delete method. We don't have the option of putting a body in here. So I guess the only way to make this work would be to do a delete one record at a time. Okay, I didn't think that out ahead. Okay, let's go ahead and modify our method to do what we need. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a new method, and I'm going to place the new method in, maybe I should do this in the base class. Yeah, let's go ahead and add a new method in the base class. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our private lib crud.php, which we're descending from, and I'm going to put a function in here, function for post or get. So this is basically saying, get me a post variable or a get variable, and we'll put str. So let's change this. So param. Okay, so we're going to say we want to get a post variable or get variable by its name, which we'll pass as param. And what we'll do is we'll say string right equals the post variable without any errors, that's what the at is there for, of param. Okay, and if the string is null, then we'll say the string should be set to the get variable by the same name. And we'll return string result. Okay, so that's our post or get method, and so if I pass in a variable name to param, I should get a value, whether it's a post or get value, I should get something back. Okay, so long as that parameter exists, of course. So now come back over into our CRUD table and our delete method. Okay, do delete. Now we're not decoding JSON data, so I can get rid of that, and for that reason we have no loop. So I'll get rid of that. Instead, what we have is we're looking for a post or a get variable. And I guess we'll say ID is equal to post. Should be this post or get. And we'll pass in this key field. So the parameter name should be the key field. And then we're going to do a delete from the table where key field, and instead of in, it will be equals. And we're going to pass in colon. Again, we're parameterizing this field now, so this key field and we want to add a semicolon. Okay, so what we're saying is where the key field is equal to the value in the parameter key field. I'm still going to die the SQL at this point so we can see what comes out, but I'm going to add the ID so that we can test this out. Now I'm going to have to do prepare and then bind the ID into the key field, but I'm just going to go ahead and test the method first. So again, back in the REST debugger, we've got the delete method, and we need to go add a parameter. So I'm going to click on the parameters tab, and I'm going to add get post. The field name is int pkid, and the value that I'm going to pass in, well, let's just pass in 1. Okay, so back to the request. If I send the request, I get back delete from table regions where int pkid in int pkid. I've done something wrong in my post or get method because I'm getting str. Okay, so let's go take a look under the CRUD. So I need to return this as a value. Okay, so let's go ahead and test that again. Send request. And yes, I've gotten the value of 1 coming back now. So now we're ready to actually cause the delete operation to happen. I'm going to come in here and we do our prepare. I need to do a bind variable. So I'm going to take a copy of this bind variable line here, and I'm going to place it under the prepare statement. Bind the key, and we're going to say bind value, and then it's this key field is the parameter name, and the value would be comma there, and the value would be ID. So into the parameter named this field, we're going to bind the ID, execute the statement, and then I guess what we return will just be the ID. I'm going to go ahead and remove the die. That should be our delete method. So let's go ahead and test the delete method. Here's our debugger. We're going to remove entry 1. So if I send that request, it's returned 1 is the record that was removed. And if I change back to a get request and send, we get back rows 2, 3, and 4. So our delete method is working. And that nicely wraps us up for this video. Looks like we're at the end of our reusable CRUD table. So in the next part, let's see, what should we do? In the next part, let's go ahead and start writing some Delphi code to consume this endpoint. So what we'll do is we will create a regions and a locations endpoint and possibly a devices endpoint. And with those 3 endpoints, we'll go ahead and write the Delphi classes to read them. Thanks for watching. My name's Craig Chapman, and until next time.